Have you ever made a decision and later wondered, what was I thinking? The truth is, we all fall into these thinking traps. These are called cognitive fallacies. They shape our decision, beliefs, and action without us even realizing it. So today we are going to uncover some of the most common cognitive fallacies, how they affect us, and why understanding them could change the way you think. Let's start with mind reading. Have you ever caught yourself thinking, I know what this person is thinking about me? You walk in a room and suddenly you're convinced that everyone is judging you. But the truth is, unless you're psychic, you're most likely just guessing. An example, you assume that your boss thinks you're lazy because they didn't smile at you today. In reality, they just might be having a bad day. Mind reading is often based on either past experiences or stereotypes, and it can create unnecessary stress and misunderstanding. There's another one called negative focus, where you can only see what's wrong and ignore what's right. Imagine a friend gets a promotion, but instead of celebrating, that friend is only focused about how stressed they'll be when the new job starts, a new responsibility comes. Over time, this bias can spiral into depression and can affect overall motivation of that person. Remember, our brains have a bias toward negative to protect us for survival, right? But overusing that can drain our energy and well-being. Catastrophizing is another common fallacy, is when you expect the worst case scenario to happen, always. Like when you're late for work and instantly believe, I'm going to be fired. It's a mix of fortune telling and negative focus that can make you defensive and reactive. Instead of thinking, what's the worst that could happen today? Try asking, what's the most likely outcome out of this? Labeling is another sneaky one. You fail at a task and think, I'm a failure. This kind of thinking can turn a single event into a permanent identity. Or worse, you label other people, like calling someone useless after a single mistake. Shows how you perceive them forever. Labels limit our potential and they restrict our empathy for other people. There's another now should thinking, which is, have you ever caught yourself thinking, I should have done this? That should acts like that. Like it's like creating a rule book for life where everything has to fit into your expectations. But reality doesn't always follow rules and people have their own will. When you think it's should, you often end up feeling frustrated and disappointed. Try turning that should into could, and it could open a lot of possibilities. Overgeneralizing is another common one, which happens when a single event makes you believe it's always been like that. You fail once and you suddenly think, I always mess up. A single bad day, I'll never find love. It's like connecting dots that weren't meant to be connected and creating patterns that don't exist. Beware of when your mind tries to rule out a single exception. The next one is emotional reasoning, believing that you feel it, so it must be true. I feel worthless, so I must be worthless. But emotions are not fact, they're just signals. When we confuse them with truth, we make decisions based on distorted reality. Remember, feelings are valid, but they don't always reflect the whole picture. Fortune telling is when you think that future is set in stone. You might believe, I'm going to fail this interview, so why even try? The problem is, you act as if the outcome is already decided, often setting yourself up for failure. Instead, why don't we stay curious about what could happen and allow room for even different possibilities? Personalization is another one, which makes you feel responsible for things beyond your control. Someone is in a bad mood, and you instantly think, it must be my fault, and often it has nothing to do with you. Taking unnecessary guilt can weigh you down. Focus on what you can control and let go of the rest. Owning the truth is when you have convinced your opinion is the only right way. You think, I know best and everyone else is wrong. This kind of fallacy can shut down open-mindedness and growth. Remember, truth can be complex and other perspectives may hold value that you haven't considered yet. Just world thinking, assume that everything will balance out, that everything you'll have control over everything, and the good is always rewarded and the bad is punished. But the world is way more complicated than that. The belief can lead to blaming victims or feeling entitled to fairness, which isn't guaranteed always. Accepting life uncertainties can make us more adaptable. Finally, there's something called control fallacy, thinking you should have control over everything in life. You believe you can or should manage all the outcomes. That leads to stress and burnout. The truth, we can only control our actions and not the world. Letting go of this need for control can create a space for peace and acceptance. These cognitive fallacies are mental shortcuts that can trick us into thinking a certain type of way. But awareness is the first step to challenge them. And which one do you recognize in yourself? Can you share in comments what you sometimes fall into?